Hi, my name is Kimberly Perez. I am actually a senior at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I'm majoring in advertising and PR.
You've been to like a low funded school, right?
Yes, my high school was pretty low funded. It John Glenn High School in the city of Norwalk. I currently live probably like 30 to 40 minutes away from my old high school. And yeah, I would say it was low funded.
And like, what about it? What in general?
Well, for instance, my senior professor that I have right now, we were discussing, because he used to teach there, and we were discussing how we have a pretty strong arts program, but I graduated, I want to say 6 years ago from high school, and at that time, we had a pretty good arts program. When I say arts, we mean the drama club, and we had a cafeteria called the MPR, the multi-purpose room, and that is where the drama team and the drama club, they would perform all these great skits. And referencing my professor again, he was just telling me that the school is actually funding for a football field, whereas and no disrespect to my high school, but we have a pretty like not so strong football team, and they're going to invest tons and tons of dollars into building this football field where we have this incredible arts program that actually has been recognized, and they have a pretty good reputation, and they're still doing their plays in the cafeteria. So, but going back from my own personal experience when I was there, we all used textbooks that were like tattered and torn and graffiti. Like my high school is actually in a city that's kind of pretty, it's up there within gang violence, I want to say, a very strong Latino community. So a lot of our textbooks were always damaged with graffiti marks. The bathrooms, the mirrors were always scratched up with gang signs and horrible things from time to time. But yeah, I mean, even I want to say like our sports teams, we could only afford so much. So yeah, those are some of the few examples about being in a low-funded high school. Going to that school, for some reason myself, I was just like, I'm never going to make it, like, I'm not going to make it big. I'm not going to do this great. I'm not going to go to an amazing school. But it's very much within yourself how you put yourself out there with your education. But I do feel like where you go to school impacts a lot on how you're going to pursue further education. It did discourage me a lot because I'm just thinking, who's going to accept this, this young Latina from this like no known high school, and it's, even if they do know it, it's not known for good things. So yeah, that definitely did kind of discourage me a little about applying to major colleges. So yeah, I would definitely say that it didn't help coming from a school like that. Well, we did have good programs. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of high schools had the AVID program where they help you out with pursuing, again, higher education past high school. We did have a lot of groups and clubs, but I just felt like it was a lot of like the students investing into it rather than the school. In the city of Norwalk, that's where my high school is from. There's John Glenn, and then there's Norwalk High. There's only 2 high schools in the area, but we had La Mirada High School, and that's in the same district, and that school was just incredibly funded. Like, they had the best events, and we would always just like say, why does La Mirada get that? How come, Norwalk doesn't, Norwalk or Glen, they don't receive the same things, and we're all in the same district. It definitely didn't make high school fun. None of the events were like pretty out there. I do remember once when prom came around, they really went big. They got us at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, and that was pretty cool. And a lot of us were like, wow, our school did that. Like, could we even afford this? So yeah, I mean, going to a school like that, it definitely impacts the student in more ways than just educationally. It kind of, I want to say, it makes the student question their own self-value. Like, this is where I go to school. I doubt that I'm going to become anything big because of where I come from. So that's something I could say about that. Like, you could even reference like the movie Freedom Writers, where you have all of these students in a certain college. I mean, I'm sorry, in a certain school, and then there's always going to be that one teacher that pushes their students to strive for more, or that's always going to have their back, or just remind them that you are more than where you come from. Like, you have more than, you have everything within you to possess a better future. And the staff that we had, I mean, it ranged from like security guards to the vice principal and teachers, but we had pretty good teachers. Like I said, my current senior professor, he actually taught at my high school, and he left a pretty good reputation about being such a strong mentor to a lot of students. I had a couple of my own, and they were honestly the encouraging factor to keep going to school. You know, like I said, you go to school and it's just like you're gonna go to this. I want to use the best language, but you're gonna go somewhere where you don't want to be. But those faces, knowing you're gonna see those people every day, they kind of give you that motivation to keep going forward. But I can be honest, like with these schools come pretty bad teachers, pretty bad staff. But if you're lucky enough, you'll have like a really strong teacher that's gonna push you to go forward. The city, like I want to say the neighborhood where our school is placed, it was pretty nice. So that's what I think it gave a good cover to where we're from. But definitely, just because it was in a good neighborhood, not all the students that went there came from that good neighborhood. Some of them came from pretty bad parts of the city. Having students like that, and we're all in the same classroom, it makes it really hard for any of us to get anything done. You know, you get your typical like bad apple in class, the class clown that wants to distract or upset the teacher. But there was always a bunch of those kids in our class, and you know, it's not saying like, oh, they need to be removed or they need to be in their own separate classroom, but it would be difficult for some of us that did want to learn. And it was super hard because you would, instead of having a teacher, you would just have this disciplinarian. And nothing really ever got done because they were too busy focused on the bad kids, where some of us were actually trying to learn. So that really made like the classroom setting kind of unbearable. And then even just like on leisure time, like lunch or snack or break or whatever, it was just, there was constant fights, girls on girls, guys on girls. There was a couple of rivalries. It was pretty annoying, and it could be pretty cliche, but it was just a crappy high school experience sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like that kind of has to do in part with like not investing enough in these kids to like maybe
definitely
kind of improve their overall?
Oh yeah, I do think so.
Life?
Like I really want to empathize with teachers that they do come in to teach. They're not there to discipline, but I do feel like sometimes a teacher is just beyond the textbook. Like it's just beyond that class period. Like you have these students and they're your responsibility, and you want to make sure that they can strive to making those 4 years of high school count. I do feel like maybe if, you know, the teachers were recognized a little bit more and they were treated a little better, then maybe the students might benefit from that. And it's crazy to think that, hey, if the teachers are happy, the students are happy. It's a pretty simple equation. So yeah, I do feel like, you know, underfunded schools and underfunded staff, it definitely affects the students a lot. The way they perform on tests, the way they perform in class, the way they perform overall. I think the category from high school, we missed it a lot. It's kind of unfortunate, but money talks. It's true. Like I'm pretty sure if the teachers were paid a little bit better, or if they were to drive into, or I'm sorry, not drive to, but work in a better facility or a better school system, they would probably, you know, find more of a motivation to do a greater job. Yeah, because it's just kind of like, the way that I see it, these underfunded schools and these underfunded teachers, it's kind of like these kids get lost in the system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them really don't make it out of those 4 years to become something better than that. A lot of them don't even pursue their GED if they don't make it to graduation. They won't even go to community college, let alone a 4-year college. So I do feel like it's a huge cycle that if the teachers aren't happy, the students aren't happy, and it's just like a never-ending routine that nobody really ends up coming out with this better education that so many people constantly strive for. A lot of my friends, even now the ones that I do talk to, they didn't pursue college. A lot of them just continued, they worked during their high school careers, and then after graduation they just continued to work. And majority of them, whenever I catch up with them, I just ask them, you know, so what'd you do after high school? And they just say that they just kept working. Some will work, you know, with just like a dealership moving cars, or but what I'm trying to say is that a lot of them didn't even pursue college after that. They just found a job, and if they were lucky enough, they got a couple of handouts and they probably made it into a better position. But most of the time they didn't go beyond high school. They just found a job after graduation and they just stayed there. A lot of them, you know, they do have these big dreams, but they don't really know where to start. Because a lot of us after high school, we started once we went to college, but to them, like I said, they kind of got lost. They graduated, They had no type of sense of direction. Like, what am I going to do after high school? Do I even think about college? Like, I just feel like, maybe college, the idea of college wasn't pushed as strong in our senior class. I do believe that. Like, if you weren't an AVID, college wasn't really brought up as an issue for these students. Like I said, AVID is this program that teaches kids to pursue higher education once they leave high school. So if you weren't even in that program, it's like they didn't even bother to strive like, hey, are you going to go to college? No, it's just like, once you graduate, we're done with you. That's it. They just wipe their hands clean and they walk away. So yeah. Yeah, definitely to answer your question though, a lot of students, they just didn't pursue college after that. They just found a job and they just kept working. We see constant things on the news about all these other issues that are going on in the world or going on in our country, but education's hardly ever an issue that we're talking about. We talk about the violence in schools, bullying and such, but do we ever mention like, hey, this school doesn't have enough money to provide paint for their art students? Or this school didn't have enough money to provide new jerseys for their students. It's just, I do think that if we start talking about it and actually making it a big issue, because it'll be a lot easier for us to actually get attention and bring attention to these low-funded schools. Yeah, so I do think, start providing more money, start providing more attention to these schools, and watch all of this magic that's going to happen, all the students that might come out. Advocate it, march for it, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, hashtag it, trend it. There's so many ways to become more active now, to make something like be known and be heard. And I do feel like education should be up there at least with gun control. It'd be great. It'd be great to see all the things you see with gun control to take an effect on education itself. So yeah. You would just think that like in 2018 would be so much more progressed. Like you would just think that. But we're not. So I do hope maybe within the next 10 years, like if I ever have children, they get a better shot at it than I did. So one can only hope. But then again, we don't want to hope. We need to actually do something. So stop hoping. Just do it. Like that's all I can say about it.